Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm your host Sandman. Today I'm going to be reviewing Sparrows turning tools. Let's get into it. So all this week I'm probably just going to be pumping out a couple videos every day, most likely. I spent 2 weeks at home because of a surgery, and now a member of my family has COVID. So I'm quarantining and I have absolutely nothing else going on. So I'm just going to pump out a bunch of videos. And today I really wanted to talk about Sparrows turning tools, the pros and cons to them, and then let's talk about some healthier alternatives, because I see these things suggested all the time on the Reddit and Discord environments and on Facebook, and I think there are better environments, or excuse me, better tools that I would like to recommend that maybe some of these people that we're suggesting don't have at their, at their disposal to be able to try and understand why I would recommend something else over these particular tools. First, let's go ahead and just kind of do a bit of an unboxing here, and let's just start from right to left. So I have this, I think this is called like the Mantis. This is for tensioning tubular locks. I don't really like that. I do believe that they took this idea from Multipick, which is not a huge thing, big thing, because Multipick makes great tools. I don't blame Sparrows for copying them if that's indeed what they did, but I've never had any success with this tool, but it's in the collection. So let's take a look at this guy. So this is actually kind of cool. Please note that everything in this is made from China, but all of these tools are all made in China. Everything that Sparrows makes, I can't say that. That would be mean. A lot of the stuff that Sparrows makes is coming from China. Not a big deal. There's a lot of great products coming from China, but Sparrows doesn't put in the investment into the quality control like they used to when tools were being sent from Canada. So I don't know what's going on there, but I have not been happy with 90% of the stuff I receive from Sparrows. This particular turning tool set that I'm opening right now, I remember when this was released sometime in around 2010, 2011 time frame, maybe 2012, sometime around there. So it's 2024 at the making of this video. So we're talking 12 years ago, 12 to 14 years ago, I think. I don't know, math sucks. And when this was released, I think there was like 16 pieces or 17 pieces in this set. This was a big deal because Wizwazzle helped design this particular set of tools. Wizwazzle was essentially the lockpicking lawyer from 15 years ago. That sounded weird. Wizwazzle was the influencer in locksport 15 years ago. He had 5,000 subscribers, which was the most of all of us back then. And he was picking, he had 200 or 300 lock picking videos. He was picking Medico locks by hand. I mean, the guy was just amazing. He was slaying locks. People liked his opinion and so forth. And so Sparrows, being a Canadian company, and Wizwazzle being a Canadian lock picker, they decided to collaborate with each other, and they came out with a few different things with Wizwazzle's name on them. Particularly this tension wrench came out around that time, and I believe Wizwazzle may have had some influence on this tension wrench set. So when this tension wrench set came out, this thing was huge. Back then you were buying lockpick sets, they may have had 2 tension wrenches or 3 tension wrenches, or maybe they had 5 or 7, but they were really just duplicates of everything else. So when this set came out, it was revolutionary. It's like, oh man, these guys are like giving tension wrenches away for free. It was a real big deal. And there was a lot of variety, a lot of different widths, a lot of different thicknesses. And this was a very good tension wrench set to have. If you were serious about picking locks, this was the set that you needed to get. And when you took a picture of this, people were like, dang, this dude has all the tension wrenches. Now the world has moved on since then, and this is kind of archaic. It's crazy how much the world has moved on in such a short manner of time. But let's talk about this set right here. So we have 3, we have 6, we have 9, we have 12, and we have 15, and then we have, does my math terrible? I can't even, my math is so, but we have 18 tools. I have such terrible math. So 6 and 12 and 18. So 18 in here. I remember when this, I swear, I could have sworn it was like a 7-piece set. 17-piece set or a 16-piece set. Maybe I was wrong, but 18 pieces is really, really great. So we have rigid, bottom of keyway turning tools. We have flex or half twist, top of keyway, or excuse me, bottom of keyway turning tools, short and long. And then we have these double-ended turning tools. Let's just start from the right to the left. So this is just a really old design, specifically these. I remember reading this in a book. Like, this was like new technology in the 1960s or 70s or something like that. Like, people were like, oh, it's twisted, so it's different. It's the same but different. And all this does is allow you to apply pressure while picking a lock without applying too much rotational force. Pressure is the incorrect term, but rotational force. This just alleviates, this is really, bottom of keyway turning tools that have a half twist are really great for suggesting to new lock pickers, because they tend to apply over tension. These rigid ones are really great for applying tension on locks that have security pins, because these will give you better feedback than these that are flexible, because these absorb feedback. However, you're not going to really get anything out of a longer turning tool or a shorter turning tool. And let's talk about why that is. I have this here Medico M3. And if I take this shorter bottom of keyway rigid turning tool and place it there at the bottom of the keyway, my finger's going to rest wherever my finger rests. The length of my finger is going to be right there. So if I take a longer turning tool and place it in here, it's no different whatsoever. My finger doesn't extend an extra 1.5 inches. My finger's just going to be where it is. I don't think we really thought about stuff like that 15 years ago. Maybe it was just me, but I didn't think of stuff like that. So there's fluff in this set, is what I'm saying. So you don't need these really long ones. And the same thing with these long ones. You don't need these. These are no different from using the shorter ones. Your finger doesn't really move that position. Let me find another, so just something easier to put tools in. So I'll take this American 1100 here. So I have this bottom of keyway turning tool with a half flex, and I'm gonna get that in there. This is where my finger is, right there. I mean, unless you're like Steve Vai or Niccolo Paganini or somebody with like ginormous fingers, and if you know who any of those people are that I just mentioned, kudos to you. But my finger's not going to go anywhere. I'm not gonna really get a whole lot of difference here. Wow, that's the wrong turning tool for that. I'm not really getting any benefit. Okay, that's a little bit better, but okay, that's still the wrong turning tool. Hang on. I'm not getting any benefit from having a longer, like, this is just wasted space. It really is. There may be a difference in absorption of tension or force being applied from my finger if the bend is here versus here, but none of us are really going to feel or know that. This is not something that I can recommend. These long ones are not that, I just can't recommend. Now someone can say, oh, but Sandman, they're for like tulip style knobs and all this stuff. You know what? I forgot my tulip style one, and I have that. I just don't have it here on my desk, but I do have one of those, and that's not what these are for. These are just, I can't argue for these at all. This is just old technology. This is just something that people used to sell in the 70s and the 80s when they were like, oh, you need a longer one because it does this, or because it, absorbs this, or it removes some of the force that you're applying that's too much. And I think those are just, marketing terms. I don't think it's needed. So that's fluff. So what do we really need out of this? We need the 3 bottom rigid and the 3 flex bottom keyway turning tools. I really like to use flex for when I rake, and I like to use rigid for when I'm dealing with security pins. But, and there is a time and a place for bottom of keyway when you are picking security or just regular pin tumblers, single pin picking. And then we have these double-ended ones. I think these, in my opinion, are kind of like Sparrow's attempt at the first top of keyway turning tools. These right here, I think these would have been among the first top of keyway turning tools before they had their pry bar that we're going to be showing here in a little bit. But these allow you for, top of keyway right there. And I remember seeing lots of videos of Wizwazzle doing that. So this was an old attempt at using top of keyway and yet bottom of keyway. This is not bad. These aren't terrible. These are the flex version, and here's a obviously here's a non-flex version. If you were to purchase, I think it's called the Sparrows Creeper set, you're essentially going to get these 3 flex bottom of keyway turning tools, and these 3 double-ended turning tools right here. So that we have top of keyway, bottom of keyway rigid, and bottom of keyway flex. Of this entire set, everything is fluff in my opinion, except for these tools. So you're really just buying a lot in bulk, and you're not going to use them all. You're going to use these. And these are essentially what they put in all their smaller sets, like the Sparrows Creeper, and I think this is the same one they use in the EOD. I could be wrong, but this is their Essential 6, I think they call it, or whatever. I don't remember what they call it, but this is what really all you need. That's all you're really going to use. The rest of this is just fluff, because we have our rigid here, we have our flex here, we have our top of keyway here, and these long ones, you don't need them. So that whole thing, you know, a long time ago, that was groundbreaking. I'm telling you, like, this isn't meant to just crap on Sparrows, but I'm kind of going to be doing that a lot. This was a really cool, sought after set of turning tools that is just kind of outdated, and it just hasn't, you know, it hasn't aged well. We'll put it that way. So let me put these guys here, keep these in focus here, and keep these in there, right there. So let's move forward. Let's talk about these. Let's just get these out of the way so I can get them off my mat, because I have these things filled with grease. So Lab, HPC, maybe not Lab, but I know HPC for a fact. Multipick has these. Multipick has a really nice one. I'd like to get my hands on it to try it. But these are essentially for applying top and bottom of keyway tension, and it's just a gimmick. In fact, I can't even put it on this too small of a keyway here. Let me try a different lock here. Let's try this Primus. That's a very large keyway because it's a high security lock, and I should be able to get in there. There we go. So this bites onto top of keyway and bottom of keyway, and essentially the idea is that I could apply my turning force here this way or counterclockwise. At the end of the day, it's kind of just a gimmick. I still want to get my hands on the multi-pick one, but I would never use this on any lock ever. You know, it's no different from the black one or the brass one. You just push down right here. It closes that gap. What it does is it does 2 things. One, it takes up a good portion of the keyway top and bottom. And then 2, it forces you further back from being able to pick this lock. I'm so far further back. I may just do a review just on these once I have more from other brands to compare it to, but these are just gimmicks. That's all they are. And these are like 10 bucks each. They're gimmicks. I'm going to get these off of my mat because I had to put a lot of oil in these to get these to function properly. They were super dried out. There's a spring in them that is super, it was super stiff, and these things were just not rotating very smoothly, but now they're just filled with grease. So I'm going to get these off of my mat. I cannot recommend those to anybody. Some people ask, they look cool, but I just can't recommend those. Okay, so moving forward, Sparrows eventually came out with these top of keyway turning tools. I'm not going to pretend to guess what year, sometime between 2012 and 2014, maybe further. These are the knurled versions. I've had these before. I've tried bending them to make them ergonomic, and they just don't bend well. They will actually break on you. The metal is very brittle, and I'm just not happy with the quality of these tools. And a lot of these come with a lot of grease on them. That's fine, because you gotta pack, when you pack metal and they sit in storage for a long time, that's just the way things are going to be. I remember one of these sets they sold without knurling. It was really weird. Like, one came with knurling, one came without. I don't understand the concept of that, and but I believe I have them all in front of me. I may not, but all the top of keyway turning tools, these just feel cheap in my hand compared to Peterson manufacturing, compared to Covert Instruments, compared to everybody else in the world that is using this design. We first saw this design in the lockpick design manual that was originally published in 1973. And then we know people like Peterson Manufacturing, it says, I invented the pry bar. No, you just tried to copyright the name. You didn't invent the design. And then everybody else in the world is now using this design, and they're all under threat of being sued by Ken Pearson of Peterson Manufacturing, but he can go to hell. So these top of QA pry bars were really popular for the last 10 years, though they've been around for over 50 years. And case in point, Lab and HPC and a few other companies had top of keyway turning tools like that, but this pry bar design was specifically came out of 1973 book, which I cover that in more detail in a video called The History of Tension Wrenches. Yeah, The History of Tension Wrenches, I think it's called. Just go back through my videos about 6 months and you'll find it. The alternative to those I would highly recommend either Covert Instruments or Multipick. Multipick has these tools. It's a much nicer metal, whatever metal they're using. I honestly don't know. It's probably just a 301 full hard because they're super thick. You don't need these things super strong, but man, Multipick, we'll be talking about this at length here in a little bit, but there's just so many better alternatives than these. These things are so cheap. They are a direct copy of Peterson Manufacturing's top of keyway pry bars right here. So that guy, and that guy. So we have a 30, 40 thou, and 50 thou. And then Peterson has these goofy ones where he was like, all right, well, maybe people want them flat. Okay, I don't know the difference between these. Maybe it's just some locks are recessed and some are not. That's fine. But this is Sparrows' take on it. Sparrows is just copying Peterson. So they have this big boy, and they have this one right there, and then they have this one. So these are essentially just a copy of these. Not a very good copy at that. I don't like the Sparrows ones. I definitely prefer Peterson ones over those, but you'll never see me tell you to buy Peterson because the guy is just, guy's a jerk. And he has bad quality control issues, and he does not run a business very well. So, and then we have these ones right here. These are just a play on of these. Some of these are duplicates. Some of them are not. You get a lot of duplicates in here. Like these two right here are duplicates. So, and yeah, so that's it. They're just a copy of the Peterson Manufacturing in here. I don't understand the purpose of making these top of keyway pry bars with no teeth. You know, someone once argued, I think it was Christina Palmer once argued that the teeth can scratch your locks. And you know what, last I checked, I've never really like tried to inspect the inside shoulder of the face of my lock to see if I scratched it. I couldn't care less. So I don't know the purpose of these without the teeth or this one without any teeth. I haven't figured that out yet, but you know, I think a Multipick has something similar to it, but they just do it so much better. Let's move this stuff out of the way real quick. So those are the Peterson ones. Let's talk about this guy. Everything, essentially what I'm trying to get into this video is that Sparrows just takes other people's designs and ideas, and then they're like, hey guys, you know, hold my wine cooler, and then they try to come out with their own version. And so here, they actually did a decent job on putting out these ergonomic turning tools, because ergonomic top of keyway turning tools is the most popular thing today. In my opinion, as it comes to turning tools. However, these are just a copy of the Mad Bob's turning tools. Now, whether they got permission from Mad Bob's, I don't know. People are trying to say, oh, Mad Bob's went out of business. No, they're still in business. They still have a Facebook page. And once every 6 months, they'll advertise that they will have turning tools available for sale. So Mad Bob's came out with these ergonomic turning tools. And here's the benefit of ergonomic turning tools outside of the obvious. So if I were to use this in top of the keyway like this, and then I just have a more relaxed angle here. It's almost a 90-degree angle from where I'm picking right there. It's super comfortable. The other benefit to this is if I flip this over like this, I can now pick left-handed using top of keyway turning tool. And that's the other benefit. So there is a benefit to be able to, because not all padlocks can you pick in this direction. So understand that that's a thing. And then you may have to pick with your thumb this way, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. So it just opens up more options with these curved bars. I think they're a neat idea. And I'm not going to hate on Sparrows for making these, but they are just a copy of what we see already on the market. And the market is very limited in scope because Mad Bob's only puts these out a few times a year, but they are still in business, so you can still get them. And I wouldn't be surprised if I saw someone like Dangerfield making these, because I think Dangerfield had a hand in designing Mad Bob picks, which is how he came up with the Praxis set, to my knowledge. And I'm surprised Dangerfield hasn't come out with these. Maybe he did. Maybe somebody can correct me in the comments, but these are the original Mad Bobs. As you can see there, it says Mad Bob. So let's take these out of the picture. So these are all of the tension wrenches. I might be missing one or two here. These are Sparrows. Sparrows, okay. So I might be missing one or two here, but nothing. Look, they even copied the little notch. So this is, yeah, they even copied the little notch in there. Mad Bob versus Sparrows. Like, there's just no originality here. They just take somebody else's design, they go to their guy in China and they say, hey, can we make this but for cheaper? And that's what we get. I would like to make some recommendations against Sparrows and point you in a healthier direction. Right now, primarily what I use primarily covert instruments, but every now and then I'll supplement with a little bit of multi-pick. I'm very happy with my multi-pick turning tools as well. I could totally just live off of those, but I use covert instruments all the time now, especially since they're a U.S. Supplier, and I live in the U.S. But if you live in Europe, I would push you towards the directions of multi-pick or bare bones or lock tools, and I'd like to talk about all of that. So first, understand that I do own all the turning tools on the market. I have every turning tool that there is on the market. These are all the Peterson manufacturing turning tools, minus the 6 that I removed earlier for that review. And then, I also have all of the Southord and Southern specialty turning tools and the turning tools from Tool and all that stuff. And those are not bad either. I would rather use these. These are decent turning tools. I really like them actually. And I would use these over the Sparrows turning tools too. I just don't use them because I have the covert instruments and the multi-pick. And then someone could say, but Sandman, you didn't review all the Sparrows turning tools. Yeah, they have the comb pry bars and stuff. I didn't feel the need to put those out, but I have them all. So let's first talk about multi-pick. So this is every single multi-pick turning tool that you can buy, period, from their website, outside of their dimple lock and their, safe deposit lock and lever lock turning tools. This is for everything that uses pin tumbler design, like a Euro profile cylinder or North American pin tumbler design with a inline pin stack. Then this is every single one that they have. And this is like one of the best investments I've made in locksport to date. Outside of all my covert instrument tools, this has been my best investment. I love it. You can't go wrong with it. I highly recommend buying the turning tool set 3 or tension wrench set 3, which is essentially all the turning tools from the Christina Palmer pick set. And then they have another turning tool set that comes from the Lock Noob set. And then they have like this 7-piece multi-pick set, which I'll be reviewing this week as well. And man, it's just, I can't say enough good things. I'm gonna do a video just on multi-pick turning tools. You'll see. It's gonna happen. You'll see. So just buy all the multi-pick turning tools. I highly recommend it, especially if you live outside of the US and you don't have access to covert instruments. Speaking of covert instruments, we now have the Genesis set available to everybody. And of course, it's been available for a couple years now, but we also have the Echelon that just got released back in October, if I'm correct, and the Echelon here. So the Echelon. So the cool thing about these two sets is if you were to purchase the Genesis and the Echelon pick set, there's not a single tool that's duplicated here. And if there is, it's a different thickness. So you're building one complete set. And the turning tools are completely different too. So we have these ergonomic turning tools. I absolutely love these. These are my favorite turning tools in the world, followed by these turning tools. I love picking padlocks with these turning tools right here. These are my favorite, and these are my favorite. And then when I have to do some float picking and I'm picking some locks with some security pins or high security locks, I like using these because getting the ability to manipulate your core like this. Let me see if I have the right turning tool here. So the ability to manipulate your turning tool with 2 fingers instead of just 1 finger is super clutch. The ability to be able to pull back and bring forward again. That's called float picking. So and it just doesn't get much better than this unless you're spending $200 on turning tools for a multi-pick. I mean, it's such a good investment. In fact, a shout out to Aplama. I think I got that correctly. His name is Aplama. He's based out of, oh man, he's gonna be mad. Is it New Zealand or is it Australia? Please forgive me, I'm just a dumb Texan. Oh gosh. Okay, I don't know my geography, but there's a gentleman by the name of Aplama on Reddit and Discord, and man, I learned a lot from that guy. He knows way more about locks and locksport and tools, and the guy's just crazy smart. And he asked me, he goes, hey man, what do you love about covert instruments? He's like, you've been talking about them a lot lately. And I honestly didn't even know how to answer. I just fell in love with them so long ago that I forgot why I loved them. And my first draw to covert instruments was their turning tools. They have this thing called the turning tool bundle, I think it's called. And the turning tool bundle is essentially these ergonomic turning tools here. let me make some space here. So they have this turning tool bundle. So these ergonomic turning tools there, I think it's these, and so these turning tools here, and then I think it's the straight ones. Yeah, so these straight ones here. And when you buy that turning tool bundle, you don't need any more turning tools. And it's like $45. It's the best. It's the best you could do with your money, in my opinion. And then I also bought the left-handed version. That's not the left-handed. These are ergonomic ones from the Echelon. Man, I'm really struggling here trying to find all of the tools on my desk. All right, so these are the left-handed ones. So when you have the left-handed and the right-handed ergonomic turning tools, and sometimes, you know, you just may have to use, you know, you may have to pick a lock differently with your thumb while using top or bottom of keyway. That's why I use those. This set, when you have all the when you have all the Covert Instruments turning tools, you're set for life. It's the same thing with Multipick, and that's what's crazy is I see Covert Instruments on the same level as Multipick, and I think 6 months ago I never would have said that. I think I have such a huge new appreciation for what Covert Instruments is putting out that they're now very fastly becoming competitive against all the other tier 1 brands. I think Covert Instruments is easily in my top 3, if not top 2, if not top 1. I don't know. I do love them a lot. I'm still a big fan of like Moki and Jimy Longs, but when I want to buy a lockpick set or suggest a lockpick set, it's got to have all the turning tools, you know. So that's the benefit of Covert Instruments. All right, so we've had Multipick. We talked about Covert Instruments as an alternative. Let's talk about Moki. So we have Moki here. We're looking for healthy alternatives to Sparrows because people are suggesting, oh yeah, just buy all the Sparrows, and I think it's a terrible idea. Moki has some decent turning tools. These are double-ended, rigid, top of keyway turning tools here. These are so much more practical than the ones from Sparrows. If you take a look, the ones from Sparrows are just way too long. They're just way too long there. And I don't understand. It's just old technology. That's all it is. These Moki ones are 1095 steel. That's good because they're nice and rigid and stiff. Then you have bottom of keyway here, different widths and different thicknesses. Thicknesses going this way is the same, but width is different, it appears. I could be wrong. And then we also have top of keyway. People that are picking high security locks love these top of keyway tools from Moki. Y'all didn't know this would be a huge review about everybody else, but I'm giving you healthy alternatives. These top of keyway turning tools, man, this is like the most complete set of these long, rigid pry bar style turning tools that you can buy outside of the American or even Multipick market. I mean, these are really good. That's not true. You know, I think, okay, yeah, Bare Bones has a really good set, and Lock does. But hey, Moki is a very healthy option. I really love these tools. I would go with these turning tools over Sparrows every day of the week, every day of the week. And then let's take a look at, okay, so we have Lock tools here. I have a 2mm pry bar that didn't come with the set, I think. And so because we're talking about turning tools, these guys really have their stuff together. They came out with these bottom of keyway turning tools. They're all, I would call it graduated or tapered. Yeah, we'll call it tapered. So 2 different tapers here. One is what I would call a Euro profile taper, and then just a regular taper and a square here. So for bottom of keyway, that's super awesome. And then they have a double-ended one for top of keyway here and bottom of keyway. One is square, one is tapered. And then we have our 2mm one. I think that they should just add this to their set because that would make it a super complete set, but I had to part it out. So this came separately. I purchased it separately. Didn't come with this particular set. And then we have the other top of keyway ones. Oh, I'm an idiot. Gosh darn it. Okay, Andrew Law's gonna be mad at me. He's probably screaming. So it did come with a 2mm. And then I have a 1mm, a 1.2, and a 0.8. So I'm an idiot. It was a complete set. Don't listen to me. I think I just had this set aside because I use it so much. So Lock turning tools, man, you know that these guys, first off, all of the turning tools are probably going to be a 301 high yield, which is not even, that's like overkill. And if I'm wrong on that, then it's just a much better steel than whatever Sparrows is doing with their freaking steel. This stuff is super bendy, and I'm just not a fan of it. So Lock tools is a much better recommendation over the Sparrows turning tools. And I think I have one more that I wanted to call. Oh yeah. Oh, no, wait. While we're still discussing lock tools, I need to do a review of these. I will do it this week, I promise. And that is these ergo turning tools that Lock did. So Lock came out with these ergo turning tools sometime around, I don't know, August or July or sometime like that, September timeframe of 2023. And these are just their same top of QA pry bars, but they put an ergonomic bend into it. I love that they did that. That is super cool that they did that. I think that they are catering to the locksport community so much, and that's just super cool. I need to find the right one here, but that's super cool that they do that. So if you're a big Lock Tools fan, this is what you need to be getting right there. Definitely don't need to be investing in something from Canada being made in China and shipped all over the world like Sparrows. I'd rather just go with Lock like that. And then last but not least, let's talk about, we're going to talk about Bare Bones. Bare Bones is a really great selection of bottom of QA, double-ended, bottom of QA, top of QA turning tools with these really unique identifiers here, like these little plastic beads that they slide on there. And some of these have double twist. I think it's just for looks. I think it actually makes it even a little bit more rigid than just having a single flex, but I think it's fun. And then they also have your typical straight traditional pry bars here in different thicknesses. And then we have this very unique double-ended wrench and a top of QA here. I need to do a full review of that. I don't remember the name of this off the top of my head. And then they have a few more ergonomic top of QA pry bars here. I would still use these over Sparrows. There's like 5 different brands I would recommend over Sparrows any day of the week. I think Sparrows is slipping. I think what they put out 10 years ago was great, and the world has just moved on. And that's all I have. This is just a big gripe fest, as always, whenever I talk about Sparrows tools. And I'm trying to get people to understand that the Sparrows is like the mall ninja of our locksport community. The world has moved on, and it has grown exponentially with manufacturers willing to make tools that we enjoy using, that we will benefit from using, and Sparrows has not innovated in that. They're very good at marketing. I see their ads all of the time on Facebook and Instagram, and they're very good at product design. Things look fun to use, but at the end of the day, everything is just a complete copy of somebody else, whether it be Peterson Manufacturing, whether it be Mad Bob's or whatever. Everything's just a copy of everybody else, and they don't copy it well. Instead, I would recommend going to the source of what I think is going to be a much better product. Let me know in the comments down below if there's a company that I missed that you think would be a better alternative to Sparrows. Let me know if there's any companies with pry bars that I should be talking about. I'm going to put out a different video, probably. Would y'all be mad at me if I started putting out 2 videos a day? Because I'm just stuck in the house, man. I've been stuck in the house all month. I would like to put out at least a video every single day this week. Maybe that's enough. Let me know if there's anything that I missed that you would like to recommend to somebody that wants to build a complete turning tool set without investing in the garbage that we are seeing coming from Sparrows. Let me know in the comments down below. I'll catch you guys next time.
Mr. Sandman.